Dimitri Callwood-Jackson is an award-winning screenwriter and director who tells stories about queer people of color to enlighten, entertain, and affirm. Dimitri wrote and directed Love Culture, a romantic comedy which was selected for the Black Alphabet Film Festival. Now stay tuned for our interview. So Love Culture is a rom-com about two different men from different cultures. What inspired the film?
What inspired the film is, well, one, I find my passion, my conviction in writing stories that I feel are important, that need to be seen. And I came to the feeling that this was a project that was needed because, one, there's a particular intersectionality when you are trying to affirm yourself as a queer person, and you also have the nuances of your particular culture. And myself being of Caribbean descent, I have those particular nuances, and I wanted to juxtapose that with other cultures who are completely different, but still have those familial and cultural conflictions with who they are, their sexuality, and their affirmation in that.
I love that. And so you said that intersectionality was important to you in the creation of this project. What do you want people to feel after they watch Love Culture?
What I want people to feel is that we are very different, but ultimately and at a core level, we're pretty much the same, right? In this film, you have two mothers from completely different cultures, completely different walks of life, but they relate to one another because ultimately they want the best for their sons. And what I believe to be the best for their sons is very much rooted in their cultural beliefs. And by the end of the film, that idea is challenged. And what happens is what is more important, right? Your cultural beliefs or the happiness of your child. And I believe that when those things are faced head on, every mother knows what that choice is.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And so you wrote and directed Love Culture.
I did.
So this year, a lot of the directors also wrote the scripts for the films, and I actually really love that. And so I have a question about the writing and directing aspect. Do you see yourself as a writer or director first?
Oh, that is a really good question. I would say at my core, I'm a writer. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because creativity, right? It's just what I feel like as a kid growing up. I wasn't always confident about a lot of things, but one thing I knew you couldn't touch me on was my creativity. I felt like God blessed me with that abundant, level of just flowing and telling stories. So while I love directing, I love the idea of, because I have ADHD bad, and I feel like I'm in my element, right? When I can really control, I feel it's like almost like a superpower. Okay. I can control it, and I can be a really good director. But I think if I had to choose, it would definitely be writing, because I understand how powerful a good story can be, and how much, if you can create a world, you literally can create the world you want to see, and you can bring that into fruition.
Oh, I love that. Creating a world. So when you wrote the screenplay and you created this world between the two leads, did anything in that world change when you put on the director hat?
I would say when I put on the director hat, one thing that I believe that I have learned more recently in my directorial journey and career is that when you are a director, you are directing more than just the actors, right? Okay. I keep going back to the idea of like Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, where he was controlling all of these things in one movement. You are directing the sound. You're directing what I hear. You're directing what I feel. You're directing what I assume, right? You are playing with people's with what they already know, taking what they know and giving them what they thought they were going to get, and then adding tax, right? And taking something else. So I believe that, creating this world, I had to be more mindful of the different ways I can convey emotion. So I was directing the lighting, I was directing the sound, I was directing the cuts. So as a writer, you want to express all you can through just through your typing, your writing, your words. But as a director, you are mindful of so much more. And so it forced me to see my story in different lights. It forced me to see, right, like I wrote the bar scene, right? But now here's my actual bar. Here's what my actual bar looks like. How will my characters feel in this particular bar, right? And so those little things kind of change how I looked at the story.
Okay. So as the director of lighting, sound, and the visuals, what, in your opinion, what's the most beautiful scene in the film?
I love these questions, by the way.
Great
questions. I think the most beautiful scene. I'm gonna go with two. The first one I'm gonna go with is at the beginning when they are nervous about meeting the mother, and my black character is just super trying to just download all these facts about India and all these facts of it. It's nervous, it's chaos, but it's coming from a place of love because I truly want, your parent to accept. And so it's touching on this heteronormative idea of meeting the parents. I have to be perfect, but we're in this queer space. And so they have to remind themselves that while we want the love and we want the connection, their acceptance, right? Our marriage and our love is a contingent upon their acceptance, and we're not going to move that way. So while this is a nerve-wracking moment, we have to come together and we got to stand on business basically and say, while we want you in our lives, this show going to happen regardless. And I like that because that was kind of like, the future that I want to see when I get my man one day, right? It's going to be some hard times. And I got a mama who has an opinion, and so it took me a lot of growth to be able to defend myself to her sometimes, and my man got to be on that same energy, and we need to be there together. So I think that was beautiful. And when the mothers at the end, there was a scene where the mothers kind of have a change of heart. There was a medical emergency, and everything just flew. All the cultural, like all these different things about why there's a problem just melted. And I wanted to use the love of a mother to do that because that's how a mother is. She can fuss you out. She can be so mad, but if you're danger, if your health, if your safety, if your happiness, if anything is in jeopardy, everything just falls. And so that's kind of what it was. It was this buildup of all the reasons why they shouldn't. And then there was a beautiful display of love. And the moms had to just realize, hey, I don't understand it, but my son is in love and somebody loves him. And I gotta respect that.
So you wrote and directed a film called Brunch in 2021. Yeah. How did your writing and or directing change from Brunch to Love Culture?
Man, it jumped like, it went from public access television to Netflix. I feel like for me, we're not quite at HBO yet, but it was a big jump. And I had the opportunity to work with the same DP. And what I love is that you can see the growth in everybody. You can see the growth in the quality of the film, the quality of the sound, all those technical things, but I'm so proud of my growth because in Brunch, I was trying to do a lot. I was just, getting comfortable with my sexuality, and I wanted to write, and I wanted to have all these topics. So it was a talk piece, and it was super, super ambitious. And I love what I was aiming to do, but looking back, it was too much for a 20-minute short, right? Yeah. And so what it taught me was to find a story that's important enough to fight through the long nights and the you know what I mean? Because filmmaking is really hard. And once you do that, stick to that story and do right by that one story. And I feel like that's what I learned. This story was simply about two men from different cultures in love having to defend their love. And that's exactly what it is. And so I learned that in the simplicity, right? And being a good steward of the idea that you do have rather than trying to throw in a whole bunch of ideas because they just popped up to you, you do more. Because I'm sure, I won't leave any names, but I'm sure we've seen some creators who have a lot of concepts and throw it in there because they got the budget to do so. And it doesn't always, so it showed me the importance of a good story and being a good steward of that story.
Okay. So one of the things you said was find the story. As a creative, how do you find the story?
I will say, as a creator, they always come. It's left and right. I'm always picking up my phone to write a voice note or to type a memo or a movie idea. And what I know is I have hundreds of them, but they're always kind of like a little bit half baked. Some are a little bit because I saw something. But then after maybe every 100th or so idea, right, it's something in there, and you feel that conviction, and that's the biggest thing that. And I believe that's why both of my films are both queer affirming films, because those are the things I feel like somebody needs. And when I go through the headache of crowdfunding and all just everything that goes into filming, you know, a light idea will fade into the background. Something that you don't really care about, you'll be like, all right, it's whatever. But when you come up with an idea that you feel like there's a queer child somewhere that needs to see this, those are the things that are going to push you through. So to answer how I find my story, I just look at all the different ideas that I have and think, what can I be the best steward of, and what would have the most impact? And that's how I feel like I choose.
The director. Let's put on the director hat.
Okay. Gotcha.
What was the first film that you saw that made you want to direct?
Crooklyn.
Crooklyn?
Crooklyn.
Oh wow! Why?
Do the Right Thing is my favorite. But Crooklyn. And I think what it is about Crooklyn is that same thing about I was born in Bowie, Maryland, but you couldn't tell me I'm not from the Bronx. You know what I mean? Like after seeing that or had that Harlem, Brooklyn experience, like it just showed me very, very early on how you can, like I said, with a good story, something you can just capture. Like, for example, I love that he narrated the film through Troy, right? Through a young girl who was seeing the world. And I think I was kind of in that space too, where I began to see your parents are not perfect, right? Things aren't always adding up. You know, that uncle who's a little loose, you realize what he really on. You know, you start to see reality of life. And I related with Troy so much on that. And just how I think that was the first time I truly understood the power of a story, and how, like, you know, I've seen other movies and I've seen other things and I've enjoyed the story, but I feel like it wasn't until I saw Crooklyn that I really felt like, okay, like as a creator, right? Like, and it also showed me how you can use different mediums. Like Spike Lee is very known for how the angles he uses, right? Whether it makes sense or not, right? I feel like in filmmaking, you have all these like rules. And with Spike Lee, he's like, I want that shot. That's how I felt in the shot. It's just that simple. And it just kind of reminds you of the creative license you have. So I think that's what kind of set my spark as an actual director.
Okay. So is Spike Lee your favorite director?
One of them. It's between him and I would definitely say David E. Talbert is very much up there. I went to Morgan State University, and so he is an alumni up there as well. And of course, Ava DuVernay. You know, just because of like I said, that more so her writing and the way she brings things to life. I appreciate those artists and those directors who you can tell have studied the craft, but are trying their best to forge a new path and make their own voice as a director. And that's the space that I'm in now. I'm trying to continue to perfect my craft and get to the point where I can cultivate my voice as a creative. Okay.
What is your all-time favorite scene from one of those directors' films?
The first thing that comes to mind is so Spike Lee. Maybe not Crooklyn, but I also well Crooklyn when they killed that dog. That's my favorite scene. But no. From Spike Lee, I would say the big moment at the end. You know, when he threw the trash can through the window for radio. You know, it was so iconic, and it's so funny because I love Martin. And I used to watch Martin very much, and I saw that joke as a reference on there. You know what I mean? And then I saw the film. And so that's my favorite scene because beyond it being iconic in multiple ways, it was a classic buildup, right? It helped me understand the building blocks of a film, right? Biggest thing that I noticed about that film is that it was hot. And it looked hot. It felt hot. He showed you, you have scenes of ice melting, right? And then it's because of the environment, tensions rose, and they rose a little more. And so because it's a small reference, right? Because people were hot, they get frustrated. But I look at it as a play to American society, right? It's like we are in this hot pot, this melting pot, and it's just bubbling and blowing up. And finally something just happens, and he loved that pizza shop. He loved what it was for the community. But in that moment, it was like the trust was broken, right? It felt like we went from family to we just some people that you get money off of. And so while it made no sense, it made all the sense emotionally, right? It's like, why are we burning out our own stuff? but it's like, no, burn that motherfucker down. You know what I mean? And so it kind of relates to even like with people who are looting. We get so frustrated with them. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But then when you understand the emotion, it's just like, yeah, here's the match. You know, so that's what I like about that, is that it makes you think, right? It makes you feel like, because it's not always black and white. And so that's one of my favorite scenes, because I feel like it's iconic, and it just really kind of was a depiction of the human experience when enough is just enough.
Okay. I like that. I've never looked at the film that way. Mm-hmm. And so now I have to rewatch Crooklyn and Do the Right Thing, right?
Do the Right Thing, yeah.
Do the Right Thing. I have to watch those. I want to go back to one of your questions when you were talking about the difference between brunch and love culture. Mm-hmm. And you said that you were kind of like public broadcasting, and you've gotten to, I think, like Netflix, but you want to get to HBO. I think that's what you said.
Get to the quality, and
yeah. What will it take for you to get to HBO as a creative?
Beyond money, right? Beyond the funding, just continued experience. I mean, I am thankfully in a space where I'm blessed to have. So I just moved to Atlanta. I'm blessed to have a regular old 9 to 5, but it allows me to just get in where I fit in anywhere. And so while I have predominantly written and directed, I took myself all the way back and said, I'm gonna go out here, I'm a PA, I'm gonna get somebody, I'm gonna do everything I can just to be around film, because I love it that much. And if you're working for free, you got a job out in Atlanta.
Okay.
And it just sparks my creativity. It's hard to explain, but I just know that like I have to be around my people. Mm-hmm. I'm like, one thing I love about myself is that I'm never a hater. I'm always inspired. So if I see somebody who has a dope film, I'm like, oh, bet it can be done, right? Okay. And in our community, for the most part, are very welcoming. They understand how hard this stuff is, so they're willing to teach. And I'm the same way, right? If I see somebody making mistakes I made, please let me talk to you. So that's what I love about it. And so I think, honestly, beyond the money, which I believe will come, I'm just in a space where I'm walking by faith, and I'm just allowing God to put me in a space where I can just be a good steward of whatever I get, right? That's kind of been the theme. I just turned 30 recently, so my theme of life is being intentional and being a good steward of what you have, because we so much want to get.
Yeah.
But, if you want me to be a PI, I'm be the best damn PI I can be from now. You know what I mean? If you want me to be the makeup person, I'm beating faces. We'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Cut crease, what you want to do. And so I feel that, I've already began to reap those benefits, because people just pour into me, whether it's just advice, whether it's just, hey, come to this little event, so those things are happening. And so I'm just trying to meet that, burn the candle at multiple ends, have the faith, but also put the work in, So I'm working on creative. I'm working on my writing. I'm trying to work with different editors, because I feel like my writing can always get better. Trying to be an AD, right? Like I said, I've always directed, but I kind of need to understand like what the AD does. I need to understand what the first PA does. I need to really kind of know, so that when I do have the opportunity to be the lead of another set, I can move much more efficiently and much more empathetically, know how to talk to people, right? I never want to get to the point where I don't know how to talk to nobody, because I can see how that can change a film. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. Yeah. And so I think once I have the funds and the experience, boom.
Okay. Have you met Kenny Beckford at the festival?
Not yet.
Okay. So Kenny is there. He's at the festival. He went to UCLA at the film and theater program.
Wow.
I forget where he's originally from, but he moved to Atlanta, and he's also a PA on a Atlanta production, and I'll let him tell you which one it is, because I think you'll love it. Yeah. So you have to network and meet with him.
Tell me his name.
You both have very similar paths.
Tell me his name one more time.
Kenny Beckford.
Kenny Beckford. Okay, got it. I'll make sure I look out for him.
Okay, so I'll ask you one last question, because I know you have to prepare for the screening.
Great, by the way. I want you to know this is my first interview for film.
Oh.
So I want you came with the questions. I'm ready. What's next, Gail? Tell me. I got you.
All right. So for any young creatives out there that haven't picked up the camera, who they want to write and direct a film, what are 5 things that they should know to be a better screenwriter and a better director?
Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna just number one is you need. I'm trying to make it concise. I'm just gonna say it straight. First thing is just do it, right?
Okay.
Like just make it. Bad content is better than no content. Any creative will tell you, right? And if you look at a lot of the people who I love and follow on social media, if you scroll back far enough, you'll see some rough cuts. So I think that's how you cannot be afraid to fail. As a matter of fact, embrace your failures and see them as an opportunity to grow. Because as creatives, you may have innate talents. You may be a phenomenal writer, but your director trash, right? And so or vice versa. And so you need to be able to embrace your talents, but accept where your shortcomings are and look for them, and then look for people to help you build that. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that one thing I heard from Issa Rae that I love is that we always feel like we need to network up, but you need to network across, because girlies who are up didn't really network up. They networked across, right? And if they did network up, it was that one connection, that one plug. But for real, they got that because they first networked across, made something of content, and then put their feelers out to network up, right? So while it's very possible, you will be much more successful if you work with the folks who you feel like are on your level and respectfully maybe are trying to get to your level, right? Because just as I'm going to work if Tyler Perry says, hey, I don't got no money, but you can come work on my set, I'm there, right? So if you are someone you feel like that's what I'll say. Use your talent as a commodity, right? But also be a good steward of that. Don't bring nobody on and say, I'm gonna teach you something. You never talk to them, right? Don't bring the PA on and you got them doing PA things, but you never explain what's going on the set. That's not quite equitable. So I would say that there are folks out there, be the person who will be able to put the work in for knowledge, and also be the person to be able to provide work and give those folks knowledge. And I feel like that would be it. What's that, 3, 4? I might have wrapped around, but I think I think I'll just leave it at that. Those are the main things. You have to embrace failure. You need to network across. And if I add one more is, we are in a creativity deficit, as you can see with a lot of things that are created or that are being creative. So don't be afraid to, one, be experimental, or two, if you have a similar idea. I've seen so many people who've had ideas that because they were close to what was already made, they just abandoned their ideas. And I'm like, please don't do that, because if you think about all these remakes, if you can tell Cinderella, perfect example. How many times have we seen Cinderella? But because people can tell that story in a different way, right? First, talk about Cinderella. Now you want to get into the Godmother. Let's talk about the dwarves. You know what I'm saying? How the mice doing? Like, people, there's so many avenues to go. So I would say, don't be discouraged creatively. There's always a way. There's always a way. And if you network across, people can show you that way.
Yeah. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I wish you nothing but success. And we didn't chat, but I was at the Black Queer Creative Summit.
Oh,
and
wow.
I wish I could have hung out with you and spoke to you. It was just a lot of people, but
it was so many. That's so awesome. So we classmates.
Yeah.
The original class. Yeah, that was the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. Wow. So I hope you get that same experience tonight.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually getting ready to head there now, so I'm going to spend the whole day there. Yeah. So this has been. You just started a great day for me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.